I still remember the exact moment my landlord banged on our door and yelled, 3 days. You have 3 days, or I'm changing the locks. My daughter was sitting right behind me, doing her homework on the floor because we didn't have a table anymore. We'd sold it 2 weeks before. And I want to tell you, I had no idea that a man I had never met, a man worth billions of dollars, was about to change my entire life. Quietly, without ever wanting credit for it. This is that story. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you're going to look at strangers a little differently. Okay, let me back up a little bit. Let me tell you who I was before all this happened. My name doesn't really matter for this story, so I'll just say I'm a mom. 2 kids. A boy 9 years old. A girl 6. And for a long time, life was normal. Not perfect, but normal. My husband worked in construction. I did part-time bookkeeping from home. We had a small apartment, nothing fancy, but it was ours. We paid rent on time. We had groceries in the fridge. We had a routine. You know how sometimes you don't realize how good normal is until it's gone? It happened fast. My husband fell off a scaffolding at a job site. Not a small fall, a bad one. 2 broken vertebrae. Surgery. Months of recovery. And here's the thing nobody tells you about accidents like that. It's not just the pain. It's the bills. It's the fact that his job couldn't hold his position. It's the insurance company fighting you on every single claim like you're trying to scam them instead of just trying to survive. Within 4 months, our savings were gone. I mean completely gone. I remember counting coins from a jar to buy milk. I'm not exaggerating. Actual coins. I started picking up any work I could find. Cleaning houses. Selling clothes online. I even tried selling homemade lunches to construction workers near our old apartment, which felt like this cruel joke, considering. You might be wondering, why didn't you ask for help? Family? Friends? I did. I asked. And look, I'm not blaming anyone. People have their own problems. My mom sent what she could, which wasn't much. My husband's brother helped for a couple months, then he got quiet, and I understood. Money changes relationships. It changes how people look at you. I started noticing this shift, where people who used to treat me like an equal started treating me like a project. Like someone to feel sorry for. That's a strange kind of pain. Nobody talks about that enough. By month 6, we were behind on rent. Not a little behind, 3 months behind. My husband still couldn't work. He was in a wheelchair at that point, learning to walk again, and honestly, watching him try to stand up and fall, over and over, broke something in me every single time. I remember one night my son asked me, "Mom, are we going to be homeless?" 9 years old. Asking that question. I didn't cry in front of him. I told him no, of course not, we're fine, don't worry about grown-up stuff. Then I went into the bathroom and cried for 40 minutes with the water running so he wouldn't hear me. I never thought I'd say this, but things got so much worse before they got better. The landlord, his name was Mr. Denning, he wasn't a monster, but he had his own bills too. His patience ran out. That's when he gave us the 3-day notice I mentioned at the beginning of this video. 3 days. I remember sitting on the floor that night with my daughter asleep in my lap, and I made a list. An actual list, on the back of a grocery receipt, of everyone I could possibly call. There were maybe 6 names. I called every single one. 4 didn't answer. 1 said sorry. Times are tight for us too. 1. My old boss from years ago actually sent me $50 through an app, and I cried again. Because $50 felt like a miracle and a slap in the face at the same time. It wasn't enough. But it was something. And something mattered more than I expected it to. I want to pause here and just say something, because I think a lot of you watching this might understand exactly what I'm talking about. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from being poor. It's not just about money. It's the mental math you're doing all day, every day. Can I afford this? as if the car breaks down. It never stops. Even when you sleep, your brain is still doing the math. Around this time, I started going to a food bank 2 neighborhoods over, because I didn't want anyone from our old life to see me there. That sounds shallow, maybe, but shame is a real, physical thing. It sits in your chest. It changes how you walk into a room. There was a woman at the food bank, a volunteer, older lady, always smiling, and she'd ask me how I was doing every single week. And every week I'd say, "We're managing." That was my go-to phrase. We're managing. Even when we weren't. One day she looked at me a little longer than usual and said, "You don't have to pretend with me, sweetheart." I don't know why, but that broke me. Right there in the food bank line, surrounded by canned vegetables and boxes of pasta, I just started crying. She hugged me. Didn't say anything fancy. Just held on. That woman's name was Carol. Remember that name. Carol matters later in this story. By the time we got the eviction notice, the real one, the legal paper, I had stopped even trying to hide it from my kids. My son started acting out at school. My daughter stopped talking as much. Kids feel everything, even when you think you're protecting them. My husband, God bless him, he tried so hard. He'd sit in that wheelchair and call every contractor he used to work with, begging for any kind of desk job, anything, even though his body couldn't do physical labor anymore. Most people didn't call back. A few did, and said they'd keep him in mind, which we both knew meant no. I remember thinking, is this it? Is this just what our life is now? And I want to be honest with you, there was a night, the worst night, where I sat in the car outside a grocery store, engine off because I couldn't waste the gas, and I just stared at the steering wheel and thought about how tired I was. Not sad exactly, just tired, bone tired. The kind of tired where you start to wonder if things will ever change. I'm telling you this part because I think it's important. This story isn't going to make sense. The ending isn't going to feel earned if I don't tell you how low things really got. So here's where things start to shift. And I promise you, I didn't see this coming at all. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were food bank days. Carol was there, same as always, and she pulled me aside before I left and said, "There's a man who comes in sometimes, just to drop off donations. Big donations. He asked me if I knew any families going through something hard. I told him about you. I hope that's okay." I didn't think much of it. Honestly, people said things like that all the time, and nothing ever came of it. I thanked her and went home. 3 days later, there was a knock on our door. Not the landlord this time. A younger man in a plain gray jacket, holding a clipboard, said he was from a community assistance fund, and asked if he could ask me a few questions. No cameras. No logo on his shirt. Just a normal guy with a notepad. I almost said no. We'd been scammed once before by someone posing as a charity, so I was suspicious. But something about how quiet and unbothered he was made me let him in. He asked about our situation, wrote some notes, didn't promise anything, just said, "Someone will be in touch," and left. I didn't sleep that night, honestly. Not from hope. From worry that I'd let a stranger into our house for nothing, or worse. 4 days after that, I remember it was raining. I got a phone call from a lawyer. An actual lawyer. He said calmly, like this was the most normal thing in the world. "Your back rent has been paid in full. Your lease has been extended for 1 year at a reduced rate, already arranged with your landlord. There's also a medical fund set up to cover your husband's remaining physical therapy." I thought it was a joke. I actually laughed, which is such a strange reaction, but I think my brain just couldn't process it as real. I asked who was doing this. "Why?" the lawyer said. "My client wishes to remain anonymous. He simply asked me to tell you, everyone deserves one person who shows up for them without expecting anything back." I sat down on our floor. We still didn't have that table, and I just sobbed. Not from sadness this time. From something I didn't have a word for. Relief mixed with disbelief mixed with this strange, overwhelming feeling of being seen. You might be wondering, did I ever find out who it was? I did eventually, almost a year later. It came out through a local news story about a business owner, a genuinely wealthy man, someone whose name you might actually recognize if I said it. But I made a promise to his lawyer never to say it publicly, and I intend to keep that promise. Who had been quietly funding families for years. No press releases. No photo ops. Just Carol's phone call, and a decision he made in private to help a family he'd never even met. I found out later that he'd grown up poor himself. Really poor. His own father had lost their apartment when he was a kid, and someone, he never said who, helped his family the same way, anonymously. He told his lawyer once, "I'm just passing it forward. Nothing more." That hit me hard. Because it means somewhere out there, this chain has been going for a long, long time. One quiet act of kindness passed down, generation to generation, most of it completely invisible. I wish I could tell you that everything became perfect after that. It didn't. Life doesn't work that way. My husband still had a long road of recovery. He eventually found work again, a desk job, coordinating projects instead of doing the physical labor, and honestly, he's good at it. Better suited for it than he ever realized. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you pushes you towards something you never would have chosen otherwise. My son stopped acting out once he saw us breathe again. Kids really do absorb everything, and once the tension left the house, he softened right back into himself. My daughter started talking more. Started smiling more. I still go to that same food bank. Not because I need to anymore. I go to volunteer now, right alongside Carol. Every single week. Because I remember exactly what it feels like to stand in that line, and I never want to forget it. Here's what I learned, and I think about this every single day. I used to believe that help only comes from people who know you. Family. Close friends. People who owe you something in a way. But that's not true. Sometimes the person who saves you is a total stranger, someone who will never ask for a thank you, who doesn't want their name attached to it at all. I also learned that asking for help is a weakness. I spent so many months being ashamed, hiding at a food bank 2 neighborhoods away, pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. If I hadn't gone that day, if I hadn't let Carol see the truth in my face, none of this would have happened. Vulnerability opened a door that pride would have kept shut forever. And maybe the biggest lesson, the one that actually changed how I live now, is this. You never really know what someone else is fighting. The cashier who seems short with you. The mom who looks exhausted in the parking lot. The kid who won't make eye contact at school. Everyone's carrying something you can't see. And sometimes, the smallest act of noticing someone, really noticing them, can change the entire direction of their life. That billionaire never met me. Still hasn't, to this day. He didn't do it for a story, or a video, or attention. He did it because somebody once did it for him, and he decided that the debt should be paid forward, quietly, to someone who needed it. I think about Carol a lot. I think about that lawyer standing in the rain outside our door. I think about a man I've never met, who changed my children's entire future with a decision made behind closed doors. And I think about all of you watching this right now. Maybe you're going through something similar tonight. Maybe you're counting coins from a jar, or sitting in a car outside a grocery store, feeling like nobody sees you. I want you to know, someone might be closer than you think. Sometimes help doesn't come from where you expect it. Sometimes it comes quietly, through a stranger, through a moment you almost didn't have the courage to be honest in. And if you're not struggling right now, if things are okay for you, I hope this story reminds you that you might be someone's Carol. You might be the reason a stranger makes it through their worst year. You don't need to be a billionaire to change someone's life. Sometimes it's $50 sent through an app. Sometimes it's just noticing someone and asking if they're really okay. If this story moved you even a little, I'd really love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, has a stranger ever helped you when you needed it most? Or have you ever quietly helped someone else without wanting anything back? And if you want more real stories like this one, please subscribe. It genuinely helps me keep sharing them. Thank you for sitting with me through this one. Take care of each other out there. I'll see you in the next video.